Thanks for tuning in to more PGA Tour coverage on Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in. And once again, want to thank Hall of Fame golfer Jan Stevenson, owner of 3 LPGA major championships, for joining us a couple times over the past week. Of course, the Masters is, believe it or not, in our rear view. So we have to wait another 300 and 50 some odd days to start getting pumped about the Masters again. But we still have a lot of big golf, including this week. The schedule is the way that it is. I mean, we're being spoiled here because we have all the best golfers in the world, sans McIlroy. Matter of fact, I believe Rory might be the only top player in the world not here. So I don't recall whether or not this was something that he had already envisioned before winning the Masters. It's very possible. But either way, no Rory, just about every other player here at the RBC Heritage. We're going to talk about that. We're going to preview it. We're going to go over the fantasy model from Fantasy National. Once again, we're going to have a link in the description of how you can purchase the Fantasy National information, which is just awesome. I mean, if you're a golf enthusiast, if you love it for fantasy reasons, if you love it like I do to try to wager and win in golf every week, Fantasy National is just one of those tools that you just can't do without. So we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. We are going to also preview not one, but 2 PGA Tour events this week. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the first one, but there is an alternate event going on because of the limited field of top players in the signature event at the RBC Heritage. So that's also on tap. I want to let everybody know that starting next week, I'm going to be attempting to begin producing the golf show every Monday. And I'm also going to attempt to do that probably late Monday afternoon, early Monday evening live. So I want to be able to interact with the audience, get you guys to come on, interject, let me know what you're thinking, let me know what your picks are, any questions, comments, things of that nature. I want to bring in as much involvement as I can because I'm going to be flying solo for most of the rest of the season. Now, this was something that was pre-planned. Brady Cannon has done a terrific job. He came on board temporarily. This is our first season here on Proline TV, talking golf. Of course, I had the other channel over at Prime Sports Network the last 2 years talking golf with Jared Smola. You've seen him a few times. You saw him last week. So Jared's going to be back, though, about a handful of times. We're definitely going to have Jared back for the majors, maybe even a couple of signature events. We've got the playoff preview as well. Brady will be back. We're going to get him on a few times again, scheduling permitted. Definitely going to get Jan Stevenson on again. So I'm not going to be by myself the entire rest of the way, but I will be handling things, pretty much for the most part, running solo for a good percentage of the season. But you know what? There's a major now. What do we got? One just about every month, starting with the PGA next month. You got the signature events sprinkled in. This is a Ryder Cup year. The FedEx playoffs, of course, is something that we'll talk more about as we get closer and closer to it. I don't like talking about the FedEx Cup playoffs this early in the season, so we're not going to really get into that just yet. Long way to go before we have to talk about the playoffs. Okay, so enough of that. Let's first of all get started by talking about the alternate event this week, and that's called what is it called? I know it's the Puntacana Championship. I believe it's called the Corrales Puntacana. Let's go ahead and pop that up on the screen right now. And this one is an event located on this course. And this is actually the Corrales Golf Club. And they began on this course in this event on the web.com tour, the old web.com tour, as you can see down here. 2016, 2017. Then they made a switch for the last 7 years to PGA Tour. So here are all your winners for this event. And Matt Wallace, by the way, is here. He's only played here once, Matt Wallace, and he won the event in 2023. Joel Damon is also a winner. He's back. Those are like the 2 biggest names who are going to be back. hey, it's an alternate event. What can I tell you? But the thing I just want to throw in here, anybody wants to wager on these alternate events, especially this week, as far as the courses, there's 2 courses to keep in mind as far as correlated courses, similar courses. Take a look at the Palmetto Championship in 2021. That was won by Garrett Higo, who is playing in this event at 45-1, and I would put him in my picks. These aren't going to be legitimate picks as far as, I'm putting $200 or $300 on any of these picks like we do with the PGA picks, but this is just in case you want to put some money on these alter, because I like to throw a few bucks on them just to say, hey, who knows? And I have won them before. I mean, I remember hitting Seamus Power a few years ago, and I've had a couple others. So it's kind of fun. Usually, I remember, tell you the truth, I think I've only won one alternate event. And as far as like the fall events, when you have the same type of fields, that's when I hit Seamus Power. But the alternate event, the best one I ever got, I think it was alternate at the time. I don't know if it was a fall, but that was they had that system where you want to be in the plus category, and they give you points depending on you get birdies, and negative if you hit bogeys and so forth. Anyway, it was in Las Vegas. Again, I forget what course it was, but Gary Woodland won. And that one I always remember, obviously, because it's Gary Woodland. So so that one and Seamus Power, I have hit a couple of these types of, again, this type of field, which isn't exactly the top players in the world, but hey, they are PGA Tour professionals, and it's action, right? That's what we're here for action. Okay, so once again, Garrett Hugo, I think he's somebody to keep an eye on because he already won one of the correlated courses, which is Congaree Golf Club, which was the Palmetto Championship in 2021. So if you want to take a look at that leaderboard, you can. Also, let's pop up the odds for this event. Where do we have the odds here? Let's see. Do I have them here? I might have to just pop them up myself. Because one of the things you have to keep in mind for these types of events, especially, and not necessarily the fall events, but, it kind of is the same principle. And that is, anytime you get into one of these fields that are not as strong, and you see players like Keith Mitchell, Alex Smalley, Harry Hall are the favorites. Okay. I'm telling you right now, this is based on many years of experience. I don't ever recall. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Maybe it happened once or twice, could have. We're talking 20 plus years of me handicapping golf, that I do not recall that one of these favorites have actually won these types of events. And the reason I bring it up is, well, for obvious reasons, because you want to know whether or not you should take these guys. But the reasoning behind it is they're not used to being favorites. You're putting a lot of pressure now on players that are used to being in the shadows. They're sleepers, they're long shots, and that's about it. None of these players are ever anywhere near the top as far as odds to win a title. And now they are. And because of that pressure, or just being a different feel, you're going to go to the event, and well, what do you think the media is going to do? The media has a job. Well, what do you think? They're going to go after the 50-1, 100-1 guys? No, they're going to go after the 15 and 20-1 shots, the favorites. They're going to talk to the guys who are considered the favorites. And they're going to get extra mics in their faces, more reporters, more activity. And they know, today's day and age more than ever, they know if they're a favorite. They know if they're considered one of the favorites. This is something they're just not used to. So it's very difficult, very difficult. But even saying that, okay, if you want to go down that road anyway, look, these two players right here, Keith Mitchell, Alex Smalley, if it's ever going to be one of those rare moments where a favorite or a top contender wins one of these events, then these are two guys that I think can do it based on how they're playing. And just take a look at Keith Mitchell, because he was third in 2021 and eighth in 2019 at the other correlated course, Quail Hollow, the Wells Fargo Championship. So Mitchell has a good resume there, and he's playing some of his best golf that he's played in his career. The problem with Keith Mitchell has been closing. He's been awful on Sundays. Now, maybe this is the perfect situation for him, because whatever pressure he has there of closing on a Sunday is not going to be as great when he's out there knowing in the back of his mind that everybody's watching the RBC. Nobody's watching them. So that could help. So anyway, Mitchell is sitting there at 14-1. He made 2 appearances here at this event. He was 61st in 2020, but runner-up in 2018. And he is trending in the right direction over his last several events on the PGA Tour, including 18th and 12th in his last 2. Smalley, of course, is having a fantastic season without winning. But now that he's in a field like this is a really good situation for him. He's made 4 appearances here on this golf course. He's had top 25s in all 4, including 6th last year and a runner-up 3 years ago. So Smalley, Mitchell, 14-1, 18-1. If you don't even want to think of it the way I just set you up with, these guys aren't used to handling the pressure, then absolutely Mitchell and Smalley are 2 players to watch. I gave you Higo at 45-1, and the other 2 players that I'm going to go ahead and roll a little bit of dough on will be Chan Kim right there at 30-1. Chan Kim was 6th on this golf course last year. He's also coming off a 5th place finish on the PGA Tour. So I think that combination, and in fact, I believe I might have even picked him earlier in the year. If not, this is a player that I had talked about potentially of taking as a long shot. So I like Chan Kim as a long shot in certain situations. Here, he's not really that big of a long shot, but it's a much better field for him. And I think this might be a really good week to break through. And then the other player that we're going to roll with as we roll through this, here's Higo, by the way, is Emiliano Grillo. And this should not be a surprise. We've talked a lot about Grillo recently, that his game was really off. Now it's starting to come back a little bit. And here he is now in a much easier type of a field. If you look at Grillo over his last several tour stops, he has a couple top 25. So he's kind of getting his game back, no question about it. And I think this would be a good week for him to maybe take that next step. So there you go. That is going to be our preview for this Punta Cana Championship, Corrales Country Club. And enjoy it as a side note. And next stop, it's RBC Heritage and the signature event that we are going to cover here following the dramatic win by Rory McIlroy in the Masters. Without Rory, let's actually see if we can pop up the odds as well. I'll throw in the picks a little bit on. By the way, we are in a nice little hot streak now with our picks. We have hit on 2 of the last 3 PGA Tour events. So we hit on Minwoo Lee as our second choice in Houston. And we missed out on Brian Harman's win. And then, of course, the Masters, our top pick was Rory. So we're on a nice little run. Let's see if we can keep this thing going as we set everybody up for a big one. So there you see, look at the big difference without Rory. It's a big one, isn't it? Pretty close. So we're at about 4-1 for Scotty here. And the next player is 11-1. So there's a big gap there as far as our top players there. Schauffele's right behind. It gets congested now. Oberg, Morikawa, Schauffele, and Oberg are kind of just right there. Those 3 makes a lot of sense that those odds would be pretty similar. So those are the clear top 4 choices this week. Don't forget that they switched from the regular large field. I could have sworn that in 2023 there was a lot of money that they were playing for a bump up. I might be wrong there, but I know, of course, that the signature event, the new model, the way it's condensed field, sort of like the old WGC, that was just last year. So this is only the second year that we've had this type of a field. So even though we have a long history at Harbor Town and a lot of data, it's hard to really go with that data because it's a completely different type of field. it's just it's difficult, it really is. Now the stats that we're going to go into, that's different. That stays the same, but the trends, the history, it's very hard to really incorporate that into what we're trying to do here as a handicapping tool. I want to remind everybody to subscribe to the channel. This is the best way. You never miss one of these videos. And when we're going to start doing the live video, again, I don't know exactly when we're going to do it next week. I'm aiming. Look, I wanted to do it yesterday, but everything that went on with the Masters this week, and I tell you just a quick story. So I was in a situation where, I had the bank from McIlroy's win, and I am, for the first time with this specific sports book, trying to take the money out. And because we went through the whole system with crypto, and I hadn't been down that road before. It's been like a year or two since I have withdrawn any money from a sports book. So I was in this situation, got the money from the McIlroy win, going to take some out. And I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I'm trying to figure out how do I know how to put it in. That's not a problem. Don't you love that? It's easy to put the money in, but trying to take it out is difficult. So that was it took me, honestly, 3 hours yesterday on the phone, trying tutorials, trying chats, 3 hours. It was just, now look, I figured it out at the long run. I got like 3 or 4 different people that helped they helped me with that step. Then I got to get back on the phone and get someone else to help me with that next step. So it took a long time. Bottom line is, at least I know now how to do this. I'm even thinking of doing a video. It may not be a bad idea, because I think a lot of people might have been in the same situation I am. And this is useful because I went and checked on YouTube to find out if there were any videos that could explain how to do it. And I couldn't see it. It was hard. I found a few tips here and there, but not the way that I think it should be explained. So I'm thinking of putting a video like that out there. But anyway, with Rory's unbelievable win on Sunday, we had Jan Stevenson on Monday. I had the 3-hour delay in my life in the middle of the day trying to set up all that stuff. And so that's why we weren't able to do the show on Monday, but that was the goal. And that's what I want to do for next week. I want to put that together on Monday. The reason I'm bringing this up is because hit that notification bell after you subscribe. That lets you know whenever there is a show that you're usually scheduled for a certain day, a week, sometimes, most of the time. But now all of a sudden, hey, not only is it on a different day, but now it's on, I don't know what time it's on. It's a live show. There were no advanced warnings. The bell lets you know, and it's a lot easier for you to figure out when not to miss it, especially if you want to join us for the live programming. I know we're not going to get a whole bunch of people early on, but the hope is that as we continue to grow the channel, and anybody that's interested in what we're doing here for the golf show, the more people want to contribute, that's great. And it also gives you an opportunity to not have to worry about waiting in line or battling for your own airtime, questions, comments, things of that nature. Got to look at the bright side of things. Okay, so here's a few other things to keep an eye on for this week's event. So 3 of the top, now just again, last year is the only signature limited field. 3 of the top 4, including the top player, were ranked in the top 10. And the reason I bring this up is because they followed the Masters last year. And see, I still think it'd be better if they had next week's event, the Zurich Classic, the team event, which I despise, and we will not be on the air next week. So I don't know what I just said about look out for a show next week. Skip that. 2 weeks. I'll be off next week. Okay. We're not on next week. So it's the only time all season, all regular season, up until the FedEx Cup playoffs are over, the only week of the year that we are not going to be on talking golf. Okay. The only way that we might talk golf is if there's an event in Europe that's got, some named players and I haven't even looked at yet. But if I don't see any of that or some really good alternate event, I'm not gonna do team golf. So anyway, I wanted to check and find out about how did the Masters players, did that affect them? All the emotion and even Scotty Scheffler. Well, it didn't, because Scotty Scheffler came right back after winning the Masters last year, comes right back in this signature event. He gets off to a slow start, but then just comes back over the weekend. A big surprise. He got a slow start and wins the event. So again, 3 of the top 4 were ranked in the top 10, including Scheffler. Only 2 of the top 11 finishers last year ranked outside the top 30. All right. So again, maybe a little surprise, maybe not, that you had all of these top players in a huge event, biggest one of the year. And then a few days later, they're playing in another event and they're all pretty much, a lot of them are dialed in. So there was no like hangover for a lot of these players, including the winner, Scheffler. Now, we're going to get into Scheffler in a second. That was a different Scheffler. All right. So, and 1 year is not a trend. Okay. So I wasn't going to use that as a way for my own picks. And I would advise the same thing. And really anybody that uses trends, and I use trends all the time. Well, you use it when it's a trend. Well, it's just 1 year's not a trend. So it's interesting, but it just doesn't mean anything as far as I'm concerned. I even I'll give some slack to 2 years as a trend, but I don't really think anything's a trend until the 3rd or 4th time around. That's just me. Okay. Now let's, actually, where do we have that? Actually, let's not pop that up because it's got the picks and I'm going to save those for later as we go through everything. But they will be available later. We have the markers on the bottom of the screen. So if all you're here is for the picks, what you got to do is check out the bottom of the screen and it'll say when the picks are and you can check that out. Okay. So also this is important for us handicapping the event. The golf course was designed by Pete Dye. Okay. So there are 2 golf courses. Now the other one, by the way, I think the 3rd, I don't know if there were 4, but the Zurich Classic, which is next week, is one of them. Interesting enough, I believe Billy Horschel won the Zurich Classic like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. And he's a player that I was thinking a little bit about as a long shot this week, but it didn't make the cut. Anyway, so anytime you get to a designer golf course and you're going to this, go to another course you design, you have to put that in play. Now, sometimes the courses just happen to be completely different. But you just use that to your discretion, of course. But sometimes they're very similar, and other times, and I think most of the time, you'll see very similar aspects of the golf course that should keep you alerted to, hey, if he does well on this Pete Dye golf course, he might do well on another. The other 2 to keep an eye on are TPC, Sawgrass course, the Players, and Travelers Championship. Okay. Now, the 4 similar golf courses we're going to go with are going to be Charles Schwab, and just giving you the name of the events, the Charles Schwab, RSM Classic, the Sony Open, and the Valspar. Okay. So those are the ones that we're going to be looking at. Now, let's go ahead. Started with the model. Okay. So here's the model, the one I put together. And this is Fantasy National Golf Club. And I'll have the link in the description of this video. I believe it's roughly around $30 a month. And again, if you're somebody that is religiously going to wager and play a ton of fantasy golf during the season, I don't see why you would want to do without a model, a tool like this. Okay, we explained this. We went over this a few weeks ago with Brady. And we are going to have a link in the description so you can check out Brady's preview of, and we're always going to put that in the description every week. So we're going to put his preview and his picks for the article he puts out for golf.com. So you can check that out. And of course, how to follow him on his X account and the other platform in which he has programming. Okay. So in order to put this one together, okay, again, this is the RBC, this is my model. And these are the different stats that I put together from my model. All right. You got scrambling, par 4s. We had par 5s last week. Okay. Greens and regulation, fairways and drives. The drives and the fairways are pretty much similar. I was also thinking about doing the irons, like 150 to 200, because that's also going to come into play a lot. This is an event where you were going to see a lot of players that are going to pass on drivers on their tee shot, and they're going with the hybrids, the 3-wood irons, things of that nature. So, but anyway, the second shot, the 150 to 200, I was thinking about that. But anyway, this is what I came up with. And look, greens in regulation, scrambling, that is going to really be important here. Okay, very important here. There are some big differences from Augusta National. And I was actually kind of surprised that because I know that there's always going to be that the fairways are really tight here. The fairways are big at Augusta. But then I really dug deep and did the research on it. I realized and remembered that, yeah, it's just more than that. It's not just about the fairways being tight. You look at it, you have a situation where the speed on the greens are completely different. So you go there at Augusta, you used to really fast greens. Here, much slower. Okay, so that's going to be a big difference you need to keep an eye on. Now, again, Scotty Scheffler, didn't matter to him, didn't matter to several other players that were at Augusta National last year. Bunch of them in the top 30 came back, did pretty well here. Now, I haven't looked at their putting stats. That who knows? Maybe they didn't putt very well, but a bunch of other stats kind of pushed them up to the top. I haven't gone into that, but that is just something that if you want to do it, you can. But just keep that in mind. There's a big differences between what we saw last week, just a few days ago, and what these guys are going to see this week. You're also going to have these overhanging trees on some of these greens. And by the way, the greens are definitely going to be smaller. Okay, not only going to be faster, but they're also going to be smaller than Augusta National. And then you can have these some of these overhanging trees on some of the greens. That's going to come into play. So you already have smaller greens. Now you, depending on where you're hitting from, you got to deal potentially with some of these overhanging trees. So, and then you got bunkers all over the place. You can have water. You really have to scramble well to come around this golf course and play it really successfully. So, those are some of the real big differences from last week to this week. So just keep that in mind. I went over the stats, went over the similar courses. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. I showed you there. As you can see there on the screen, you got the key stats I wanted to throw in there. I also just, before we get going, normally I have like a list of trends, but I'm going to go over just a few of them. But it's just tough to say that you should use these since we really only had 1 year of a condensed field in this situation, and again, also for big money. I mean, on a regular week's event, even if all these great players are playing together, and it's unfortunate that it just doesn't happen anymore unless there is big money to be made or big hardware to be, won. But the fact is that the motivation is also not necessarily there financially because, I'm making a nice check here to win this thing. But hey, if it's a signature event, man, you are really making some cash. So that'll get you motivated pretty quick. All right. So the one thing that the trend that really I'm the most interested in is the fact that in the last 5 years, the winners, matter of fact, let me pop up the winners here. All major winners: Scheffler, Fitzpatrick, Spieth, Stewart, and Webb Simpson. All major winners. So the last 5. Okay, now this is the only one maybe that matters because it's, again, signature event, condensed field. But I do that one. I've got a few major guys that are around my picks this week. Also 6. Now again, these other 2 or 3, use them however you want to. 6 of the last 12 winners missed the cut in the previous event, including 4 at the Masters. Okay, so what that tells me is that don't worry about anybody that comes into this event coming off a miscut. Okay, normally speaking, the average number of appearances of the last 5 winners is 10 appearances. Okay, but it ranges from 2 appearances to 22 appearances. Okay, that's a big margin. Once again, similar to the 6 out of 12. What is that telling me? It's telling me that anything's possible. You can miss a cut coming in. don't miss a cut. You can have 15 appearances here before you win. You could have 2 appearances here before you win. Doesn't really matter. And then also, before the signature events last year, the previous 10 winners of this event averaged 42nd in the world ranking, and 2 of the previous 4 ranked outside the top 100. So there were a lot of long shots that found their way to win here. Matter of fact, if you just look here, you see a couple right there. CT Pan, Kadera, 19 and 18, back-to-back Brian, 17. I hit Grayson, 16. But look at these 3 right here. These are 3 long shots there all in a row before the majors took over. Now, as far as live betting, and this is something that we're going to get a lot more into on this channel. I know Jim Feist is going to put a series of videos together. It's going to be a lot of fun, very educational, because live betting in some sports at some time of years during the seasons can be really profitable. And these guys there's a skill to it, obviously. And you got to see these videos we're going to start making. They're going to be really cool. They're going to show you exactly. We're going to go through the process as the game is going on, as the event is going on, how to live bet, how to take advantage of it. Now, as far as golf and just here for our little show, this is, of course, important. I think live betting, just like it could have been an issue for me when if Rory had lost and I had not put live betting into my wagering last week, because with Rory as one of the favorites, and with him winning or leading going into Sunday, he was, I think, minus 190 or minus 200 to win. That was a big advantage for me. So I was able to take a look at, I think now I already had a few hedges already from the beginning of the week. DeChambeau, that was my second pick. So I already had money on DeChambeau. I had money on Day. He was one of my picks. So I had Rose. Okay. We talked about Justin Rose. I mean, I've talked about Justin Rose for 3 years between Prime Sports Network and this channel about how I believe he's destined for a green jacket, and he almost got one. I'm glad he didn't financially, but I still would have made good money with him if he had. So I had that, but I had about 5 other players or 6 players that I was then able to go in and hedge on because the numbers were so big because of Rory being minus 200. So I was able to go, even Scotty was 45 to 1. Corey was 22 to 1. That was the next choice after the top 2. And then everybody else, I think there was another 45 to 1. Can't recall who it was. But then everybody else was 80, 100, 150, which meant I didn't have to wager a lot of hedge money. So when it was all said and done, I entered Sunday with a situation where if Rory did not win, then I would have came away with, and I'll just use averages, 500. Okay. Where Rory would have made me 15. Justin would have made me 1,000. But all the other hedges I made, 500. So, and I only had to invest about 30 or 50 bucks on Saturday night, going hedging. Not a lot of money at all in order to hedge smartly and make sure that even if I got very disappointed and lost with both Rory, DeChambeau too. So by Rory, DeChambeau, I had Justin for 1,000, DeChambeau for 1,000, Rory for 15. So because of all the other 500 ones, if one of them happened to win, like Oberg, they were close. If someone did that, I was still I would have made money. But anyway, that's why live betting is very important. And it's something that Jim, the expert, is going to get into on this channel. Okay. Now, live betting here, for the most part, again, we only have 1 year of this field, but for the most part, the first 2 days normally, and it even happened last year, is a come from behind event, but that's only the first 2 days. Okay. So because Scotty came from behind last year almost the same way that other players have, that really worked well for the system. That said, yeah, even when it was a condensed field and so forth, it still worked out this way. Okay. So what it's telling you is you don't have to worry about putting all your chips in or a lot of your chips in until the weekend. Okay, after the first round, 8 of the last 14 winners began round 2 either 26th place, okay, or worse. That includes 32nd, 35th, 37th, 54th, 58th, and 82nd after round 1. It was Scheffler last year, 26th. Okay, so also 8 of the last 12 winners started at least 5 shots back, including in 2018, one of the players was 9 shots back in 82nd place and still won. Scheffler, 6 shots back after round 1 last year. After the second round, okay, it's stayed pretty similar. 7 of the last 9 winners were outside the top 5. Okay, so you don't have to do a whole lot after day 1. You do a little bit more after day 2, but then once you're ready to go in, once you're gearing up for the weekend, the cut is made. Well, there was no cut this week, but you're ready to go. I don't know. I don't think there's a cut. I know that they had talked about like having a cut, like one or two of these signature events, but I don't think there's a cut this week. Anyway, after the second round, going into the weekend, okay, you want to be in good position now, because after round 3, 12 of the last 13 winners started the final round in the top 10. 4 of the last 5 winners led going into the final round. Only 3 of the last 21 winners started the final round outside the top 10. That was 12th, 17th, and 22nd place. Those 3 were 6, 6, and 9 shots back. So even though only 3 of them started the final round outside the top 10, those 3 made big comebacks, 6, 6, and 9 going into Sunday. So once again, you can be patient after day 1, very patient after day 1. A little bit patient after day 2, but then all shots fired after that. All right. Model time. Let's get into it. Here we go. And I will let everybody know that I would say that we're going to be probably about 10 or 15 minutes quicker than we are today, because there's a lot of promoing and having to explain a whole bunch of stuff. And so that all that stuff's not going to have to do every week. So I know the time is important to everybody, and we don't want to be doing long videos all the time. All right, so here we go. Here's the model. And you might say, well, Scotty Scheffler is first in your model, man. That doesn't sound good. Yeah, but again, keep in mind, Scotty's not playing his best golf. And we saw that at the Masters. And if you look at it, even though he's the defending champ here, even though he hasn't won yet this season, you could think, oh, come on, he's got to win now, right? Eventually, it's about time. He's probably pissed he hasn't won yet. He's going to go out there and bury the field. Sure, could happen. We all know that. And there he is, top of the model. Okay, but keep in mind, his putting, as we saw on Sunday, even though this is different surface, completely different surface and greens. Okay, that's the other thing to keep in mind too. I didn't go over the particulars, but you're talking about a golf course that's about 300 plus yards shorter than Augusta National. It's 7,200, about 7,200 yards. It's a par 71, not a par 72 like the Masters, and they are Bermuda greens. Okay, so you've got different greens, you got slower greens. Okay, so keep that in mind. And even though there is a little bit of a slope, some undulation, nowhere near like Augusta National. Okay, but Scotty not only was having problems with his putter at Augusta, but with the Bermuda greens, and also with the greens being a little bit slower, that's the model for putting. He has not been doing very well lately. All right, so initially, what I'll do is everybody's different. 24 rounds. I think that's a great benchmark. That's the way they do it. Fantasy National. That's the way Brady does it. Why am I going to mess with that? But then also, you can go in and change it or make it higher, lower. And I will do that. I'll bring it down to 12. Actually, what I'll do is I like to bring it down right to 8. Just go to all the way to 8. And then 4. Because what I want to do is I want to see, well, okay, it's nice to see, because the 24 rounds is a much better indication of how a golfer, is trending. But the 8 and the 4 is giving me a completely different, much sooner, like like if I see that the 24 and the 8 is similar, but the 4 is a little bit different. Like, wait a second, what's wrong with the last 4 rounds? I'm not going to worry too much, because anybody can have a bad week and are under any condition. And who knows, maybe there were weird conditions. That's not in play here. I don't know what the conditions were. Maybe it was windy. Maybe it was cold. Maybe it was rainy. But if you see it where it's like 24 rounds, he's here. And then when I go to 8 rounds, wait, he's down here. And 4 rounds, just 4 rounds out, he's down there. Now, all of a sudden, you're going from he's a little cold, he's just not really doing much, to, hey, he's starting to do something now. He's getting better with that putter, to he's really hot with the putter. And I think that does matter. So that's why I'll do it that way. All right. So, but right now, we're not looking at the putting. Now, let's do this. And we're going to do it this way. All right. Corey Connors and Morikawa, 2 of the better players out there. Now, here's the problem for me with Connors. The reason why I didn't take him. And I would take him over Morikawa because I'm getting double the money. And I think Corey Connors is playing just as good as Morikawa. So I can get double the money for it. The thing with Corey, the reason why I passed on him this week, because I had to decide on 1 or 2 players in the same area odds-wise. And both of them are not doing well with the putter. But I'll get to that other player in a minute. But neither is Morikawa. So Morikawa's putting is not exactly going right now. And neither is Corey. So that's something that is in play for me when I need to nitpick, because there's so many options out here. But I also like Corey here because, again, in general, I think he's a pretty good play. He's playing really good golf. 6 straight top 25s, 4 top 10s, 1 top 5, 8th last week. We saw what he did last week. Again, second on the model. And then we take a look at Morikawa. Now, Morikawa's a little bit going in the opposite direction, results-wise, but all still top 15s. Again, the thing with Morikawa, though, is the putting. And the problem I'm having with taking Morikawa at such a low number at about 11-1 is the putting is not perfect right now. And if you had to pick a club that you really are concerned with the most when a player is having problems closing, what club is that? And I think it's the putter. That's my opinion. And so that is again nitpicking, but that's the reason why I'm going to go and pass on Morikawa. It's such a low number this week. He was 9th at this event last year. Also has 1 other top 10, and he's made the cut in all 5 of his appearances here. Generally, overall, even outside the signature last year. Okay. Valimaki's an interesting long shot. Now, I wouldn't take him this week. He's 200-1, but he's somebody that, like, if he was in the Puntacana event, I would probably take a look at him for sure. Matter of fact, I'd definitely bet him in the Puntacana event just based on the field. Like, if they were playing in this at RBC with that field, I would be all over Valimaki this week. But this field is just too strong. But as you can see there, Valimaki really fits the model here. All right, Berger, Henley, Lowry. Russell Henley, what a disaster last week. We were all thought, maybe after what we saw at Bay Hill, that Henley had turned a corner. He's done pretty well at majors lately, including the Masters. This is going to be a big Masters for him. And who knows, maybe it was the pressure. Maybe there was a lot of that. Maybe there was a lot of people that were talking about Russell Henley as a sleeper. I don't know, but I don't know if that was part of it, but what a disaster there. I'm going to pass on him this week. I'm also going to pass on Lowry, because Lowry has not been good here at all the last couple of years. Just a few years ago, everybody was taking Shane Lowry here and felt, and still probably feel, that he just keeps coming here. This is a good golf course for Shane Lowry. But again, the last couple of years has not been good. He's also not putting particularly well on top of that. And even though he's 7th in the model here, the model numbers drop when you take a look over his last 4 rounds. So all in all, he's got 2 top 5s here out of 7 appearances. He's a good play if you want to take him, based on the fact that, like I said, a few years ago, boy, his resume, he was really good, and he was close here several times, like those 2 top 5s we talked about. Once again, I'll pass. Berger, I'm not going to pass. Berger is a play, and what I like about Berger, obviously, he's 5th on the model. He's also accuracy-wise, I believe he's 10th on the PGA Tour this season. That's nice. The putting is fine. It's good. He has 3 top 25s and 5 appearances here. He was 3rd in 2020. He has not played here the last couple of years. Obviously, he had the injury and such. He's got 7 straight top 30s coming in. 21st last week at Augusta. Correlated courses, he won Charles Schwab in 2020. 2nd at the RSM in 24. 7th at the Sony in 21. And was also runner-up at the Travelers, the other Pete Dye course, in 2017. So a lot, in my opinion, to like about Berger. He's close. I think it's a good pick. I think it's a good spot for him. And then you have, let's keep going down here. All right, Straka. Now, another one, just like Henley, very disappointing last week at Augusta National. 2 top 5s in his last 3 trips here. That's really good. But he's trending in the wrong direction. Okay, so over his last 4 events, he's going the wrong way. Good here on the model. You like that. Okay. You like the model. You like the 2 top 5s in the last 3. But what I don't like is the trending in the wrong direction. And I'm also going to be nitpicking. And this is just, I'm not going to do it every week, but I got to nitpick when we're talking about players who have won like in the last year. Because it is so difficult. There are so many other golfers to choose from who have not won in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, who are just about as talented as Seb Straka or any of these other players that have a win in the last year. And so there are times when I've got a lot of other players to choose from, that if I have to pick something to make the decision which way to go, a lot of times I'm going to go, well, that guy hasn't won in a few years. This guy has. I think seeing this guy win twice before this guy wins once, that's the reason I'll go in that direction. Okay. Now let's talk about Spawn. I was thinking about, didn't take him, but Spawn, who's 60-1. As you can see here, good on the model. His putter's going well. He was, don't forget this year, this is just this year for Spawn. Runner-up at Palm Beach Gardens, runner-up at the Players, Pete Dye, and 3rd at Sony, correlated course. Also 2nd at RSM back in 2017. He has a couple top 30s here. 7th, he was 6th in 2017. So the number's nice, 60-1. I was definitely thinking about him as a nice long shot. He just did not make the final cut, but Bud Cauley did. And how can he not? He's still giving you good odds. You know, the odds have not dropped for Cauley. Some of my picks this week, that's the reason, and it's going to be the reason every week I'm going to go with these types of bargain picks, value picks. And that's exactly where Cauley is. Does Cauley have a great history? No, but Cauley doesn't have a great history pretty much 90% of the places he's gone. It's not the type of player he is. But he is playing the best golf he's ever played without winning. He has, in his last 3 events, he's finished 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's been incredible. And in 2 of them, one was the Players, the other was Valspar, another correlated course. Okay, now the model's good, as you can see. The strokes gained tee to green is really good. The thing that bothers me the most about Cauley, and I think this is the problem that's preventing him from maybe winning, even though he's been close those last 3, has been the putter. But that can get hot at any time. And I just cannot take Bud Cauley at 75-1 when we have those 3 results coming in. And it's just, and look, and was right there in a really good spot on my model. Fleetwood, Cantlay, Fleetwood has 1 top 10 here in his career. So it's nothing to write home about. The putter, not going very well for him. I don't know. I would have thought this would be a really good golf course for Tommy, but it just hasn't really been that. So I'm going to pass on him this week. But Cantlay is the guy I'm taking. I mentioned to you that I was Connors and who else, and this is the guy. This is one of the situations where I just have to take Cantlay. Unless he's like 5 missed cuts out of 6 or playing a worse golf in 5 years. But he has none of that's happening. Is he hot right now? No. He's just going okay. The problem is the putter right now for Cantlay. That's it. That's it. Everything else is going well. It's a putter that's killing him. Because look, he's 14th in the model. But the thing is, in 6 of his 7 appearances have been 7th or better. 6 out of the 7, 7th or better, including 4 times when he finished 3rd and 1 runner-up. Nobody has this type of resume here like this. Nobody. And he's still one of the top 20 players in the world. So, yes, of course I have to take Patrick Cantlay. I am not going to feel stupid on Sunday night and see Patrick Cantlay hoist a trophy and me going, well, he wasn't putting well or this, that, and the other thing, when it was staring you right in the face that he had all these tremendous results at this golf course and you didn't take him. And it's not like he's 50-1 or anything, and I get that. That's the only thing. I wish I had a little bit more than 20-1. But come on. I mean, again, I can get double than Schauffele, Morikawa, Oberg. That's why I'm going to go with Cantlay as well. I have to do it. Gerard, I'm not taking him this week, but we took him a few weeks ago, and he almost came through force, finishing 2nd. He's really playing some good golf, this kid. So he's got the models looking nice. He's coming off the runner-up. He was 9th the event before that. You're getting a big number at 120-1, but he's never played the golf course before. And I don't know if Ryan Gerard can win a signature event. So that's why I'm passing on him. I can't take Justin Thomas right now. It's the same thing I've been saying with Morikawa lately. And there's just, his game is so erratic right now. His putter's not there. The model's okay, as you can see. There are some things to like. He was runner-up at Valspar, of course, but don't forget he had a 2-stroke lead there, I believe, on the back 9. Blew that. 5th here last year, and I believe that's his best finish. Yeah, it's his best finish. He's also missed no cuts here, 6 for 6. But he's just 16-1, and he hasn't won in a while, and it's just too erratic. I'm actually surprised he's 16-1 in a field like this. This is too strong a field. Justin should be he should be behind Connors, behind Cantlay. I'd put him actually behind Lowry. I'd put him between 25 and 30-1. All right. McCarthy, I was thinking about a little bit, but just didn't decide to go that way. But he was definitely one of those players that deserved to be talked about as a potential, as somebody that potentially could make the final cut. Only a couple of top 25s, though, here. He doesn't have a great resume at the golf course, but we know he's a good putter. The model was nice. And also on the courses, the similar courses, that was the thing that caught my eye. He's got some good numbers there between the Pete Dye and the correlated courses, but just didn't make the cut. Michael Kim has just had no success here at all, like 0. And I know he hasn't been a very successful player for a while before this year, but he's 23 over par in his career overall, missing 3 cuts, a WD, and a high of 76th and 77th. Hasn't played here in 3 years, though. That's a good thing. So I needed some sort of success with Kim. on a golf course. I just had to have some, and he's got none. Batia, I was thinking about, but because he was 18th last year, that's a pretty nice finish after missing the cut the year before that. But the putter's off. You saw a little of that last week. So that was, but I like the odds, 65-1. I think it's a good number. If you want to take Batia, I think it's not a bad idea. McIntyre. Oh, did I really come close? I was trying to figure out a way to take McIntyre, but I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't figure it out. I mean, I had enough players on my list. I had 10 this week, and I just couldn't do it. But I do like him. I think he's a solid play. You take a look at his off the tee stats, and a lot of them are good. That's what you want to see here. But he's only played here once. That was 2021, 59th place. But everything else, I mean, the model's good. The putting's okay. He's got 6 top 20s in 10 events this year worldwide. 3 of those are top 10s. And look, he missed a cut at Augusta. I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? And before that, he had back-to-back 9th place finishes. Yeah, I think this is a good golf course for McIntyre, but we just didn't see it the first time. Kind of want to give him one more go around here, but he's 40-1. I think it's a fair price, and he was really close. I was really close there. Hovland I considered as well, but he's played here a couple times, nothing great. Winning the Valspar, that's big. Just a little while ago. But once again, another player that the putting is not exactly where he wants it to be, but I don't really care too much about that. The thing that really prevented me from taking him was the fact that he just won. And it's kind of hard, and especially at this price, 30-1, 25-1 range. Because there's another player that just won that I did take. Okay. And then you've got here, he's the next guy to talk about, Brian Harman. Okay. I did take Harman. But where the reasoning was with that? I'm getting 75-1 with Harman. I don't have to do 25-30-1 with Hovland. That's the big difference right there. So when I saw Harman was at 75-1, I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, he's not getting any respect here. He just won. And the reason why I thought that he was someone I had to grab, not just because he was 75-1, but if you look at it, he's got 3 top 10s here. And in his last 4 years, he's finished 12th, 7th, and 13th out of the 4 years. The model is okay. It's all right. It's a little bit better than average, but the putting is on fire. He is on fire with the putter. And also, if you take a look at PTI courses, Travelers, loves playing at the Travelers. Actually has a runner-up at Travelers just a couple of years ago. Players, likes playing at the Players. Nice, a handful of nice results at the Players, including runner-up last year in 2024. And then the correlated courses, 2 top 5s at RSM, including a runner-up. Top 5 at Sony. Top 5 at Valspar. Top 10 at Charles Schwab. A lot to like about Brian Harman. If he was 40-1, though, 30-1, I should say, I pass. I'm not going to pass at 75-1, even though it's going to be very hard for him to win twice in 3 events. Here's another one I'm taking, Poston. And I have had no luck. I'll be honest with you. I've had no luck with JT taking him. When I take him, he seems to just not play all that particularly well. So I'll give you a fair warning. But he has a very good resume here. In 6 appearances, he has 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s in his last 3. He's overall made 9 straight cuts on the year, but none of them are top 10s. And normally that would be a problem. But when you take a look at his history, it doesn't matter. JT doesn't need to be trending well to win an event. He could be doing exactly what he's doing right now and then just win. That's JT Poston. That's why he's difficult to figure out when to take him, which is why when he is trending well and I take him, he doesn't do anything. So, he's one of these players that you'd rather just not take him when he's trending well. Almost like this is like the perfect time because he's at least made cuts. He's playing well. He's just not trending in the right direction that you would normally like. Anyway, the model's okay. little bit better than average, and the putting is good. It's good. So the putting's good. He's also got, what does he got? He has 4 or 5 good results, maybe even more, at the correlated courses. So there's a lot to like about Post on, and he's 65-1. Now look how far back Schauffele is here. And that's a big sign because I said we got to nitpick these favorites. And I'm seeing a guy at 10, 12-1. In the model, he's 30-30. He's pretty much average. Why? Well, just not going to take him, especially since he's still playing behind a little bit with everyone else after the injury got off to a slow start. He only has 1 top 10 here in 5 appearances. He was 18th last year. But by the way, even though he's 33rd here, if you look at just the last 8 rounds, he's in the top 10 in the model. All right, which shouldn't be a surprise because it's Xander and he's going to get better. But I can't do it at 10-1. McNeely was another player that I was thinking about taking. I was really close on going down with McNeely, but it just didn't work out. McNeely has 1 top 5 in 4 appearances. He won the RSM last year. Okay. And his last 3 appearances, actually his last 3 events this season, 32nd last week and 3rd before that, and then 32nd before that. So the 3rd is the one, of course, that sticks out. So the thing and the other thing I liked with McNeely is the odds. Nice odds, 60-1. But he just won. So again, as I said, I got to nitpick some of these guys. There's so many players to choose from. That's the thing that knocked it out for me, but I think he's a good choice for you at 60-1. And then you have Jaeger, and I went with Jaeger. All right, we got Jaeger at 100-1, which I think is a very generous number. I think there's really good value here. If you take a look at the 3 appearances here, 2 missed cuts and 18th last year. He started off at 9 over par, went to 2 over par, and then went to 9 under par last year. That is a very good move from the 3 appearances he's made here. Nice upward trajectory move there. He's also 3rd at Sony this year, one of the courses, and the putting is good. So I like all of that, and I love the fact that I'm getting 100-1 with Jaeger. Minwoo just won, so there's no way I'm taking Minwoo. Jordan Spieth, though, I am going to take. And I think this is one of his better courses. He's never missed the cut here. He's 8 for 8. And how about this? You see here he's 39th in my model, okay, which is average. And that's not surprising because he hasn't really been playing great. But keep in mind he has 4 top 15s this year, and he was 14th last week. He was under par on Sunday, going into the final day, under par, in the mix as far as respectable showing. And yet you wouldn't even think that because we're not seeing him at the top page leaderboard. You know, we're not thinking about him winning an event yet because he hasn't been in the mix recently. But I think this is a good event for him to do that because if you look at the putting model, 24 rounds starts at 66th. 8 rounds, 19th. 4 rounds, 9th. So Jordan's putting is getting better and better and better. He won the Valspar in 2015. He's got a runner-up at Charles Schwab. So he's got the correlated courses, which I don't think is as important as the fact that he's 8 for 8 cuts, 5 top 15s, a runner-up, and a 2022 win on the golf course he's playing starting on Thursday. By the way, he also won another Pete Dye course, the Travelers, in 2017. I want better odds. It would have been nice to get better odds than 40-1 in a field like this. You know, Jordan, like I said, hasn't been up there, but I'll take it because he's been so good here. Wyndham is just too hard to figure out right now. There's too much inconsistency there with Wyndham. The good thing is he was 3rd here last year, best finish, but I just can't do it with Wyndham. It's just he's up and he's down. It's just too volatile. Here's one that just missed. Now, Matt Kuchar, as you can see there, Interesting. If you want to throw a buck or two on Matt Kuchar, you can do that. You look at Matt Kuchar. His history here has been phenomenal. Matt Kuchar's history here, you're talking, and by the way, he's 170-1. He's made 19 of 20 cuts. 9 of those are top 25s in his last 10. 9 in his last 10. That includes 5 top 10s and 4 top 5s. So this is when he's been older. So again, 9 top 25s last 10, 5 top 10, 4 of those top 5s. 1 of those was a runner-up. The other was a win. Okay. The win is in 2014. And overall, a lot of his successes come actually in the last 10 years. Now, he didn't play last year. Okay. But I mean, it's hard for most people to believe at this stage in his career that he's going to win a signature event. That's the thing. But hey, man, put a buck on the guy. He's a 170-1. Hughes just missed my top 10. All right. And it just the reason he just didn't make the cut was I don't know if he can win a signature event. But what I like about Hughes is he's trending in the right direction, including 10th his last time out. I mean, he loves RSM, the RSM Classic. Absolutely loves it. He has some nice finishes on the other courses, including Valspar last year when he finished 3rd. The model, as you can see, is not all that bad. I mean, he's not in the 60s, 70s, 50s. I mean, it's a little bit below average, but it's not terrible. But the thing also, the putting is not going all that well. So I was concerned with that. And he has missed 4 or 7 cuts here, but his best result was last year when he finished 39th at 6 under par. So he's coming back to a location when he played in a signature event, condensed field, had his best finish, and he's coming off a 10th place finish last time out for him a couple of weeks ago. So there was a lot of things that were intriguing to me for a player at 120-1, but he just didn't make the cut. But here are a couple other players that did make the cut. Hoagie and Rose. Hoagie, we've been on, I believe, his last couple of events, or at least the last event. And we're just going to keep, at this point, I don't see any reason why I would jump off Hoagie right now. If you look at Hoagie, 90-1. He only has 2 top 25s in 7 appearances with 4 missed cuts, okay? But his best finish was last year, same thing, 18th, same as Hughes. But his last 3 events, 14th, 5th at Valspar, 3rd at Players. Don't forget the big Sunday he had there. And another Pete Dye, 3rd Travelers last year. A couple of correlated course top 5s, nice. More important. And see that 44th? In his last 8 rounds, he's 13th in the model. Last 4 rounds, he's 3rd. It's getting better. It keeps getting better. And how surprising should that be based on these results? And the putting is very good. It's red hot coming in over his last 4 rounds. Red hot coming in. So I love that. With Rose, he's at 60-1. I can get the playoff Masters runner-up at 60-1. 3rd at Pebble. 8th at Bay Hill. 2nd at the Masters. And I'm getting 60-1. You can see the model is nothing great there. I get that, but it's better over 8 rounds. And it's even better over 4 rounds. So he just keeps getting better with the model as we get closer to now. And he's also very good with the putter lately, as you saw on Sunday. Again, different setup, but still, the putter's working. And Justin, I think the way he's been going, I think Justin's going to win this year. I don't know if he'll win a major or an event, but he's going to win something. And if there are spots and good past histories and things that just say, yeah, this could be the week, this could be the week, I'm just going to keep getting him because I'm going to be getting good odds. I even think he's a good play to take a look at for all the majors right now, because you're still going to, I looked at it already. You're going to get good. I already picked him. I think he was still a big number for the PGA. I'm just going to pick him for all three majors because you're going to get big numbers for Justin Rose. Oberg, we decided to pass on again, another short price. He was 10th here last year, which is a nice number. Of course, we know what happened last week. He was right there until things fell apart late, but I'm not worried about that. It's just that keep in mind he had back-to-back missed cuts coming into the Masters. He did win the RSM in 2023, but the model, as you can see, not very good here, and it actually got worse the closer he's been. So, again, he had those two missed cuts, but look, he had a big going at the Masters, but there's a lot of differences between the Masters and this week at RBC. Ricky, I want to mention Ricky because his number's so big. And I'm wondering if Ricky's going to have I really am interested to see if Ricky comes out of the gates firing. Because maybe he doesn't. You know, Ricky's so kind of laid back and all, but you just wonder whether or not playing at Augusta National will drive him to not be in that position again. Because again, his game is getting better slowly because he's had like this 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. That's the kind of, it's just not been fast enough his progress, but he has been slowly getting better. He only has 1 top 10 here in 8 appearances with 5 missed cuts. Okay. But his last 2 years here, he's finished 18th and 15th, combined 20 under par. And he has been trending in the right direction. But the putter, that's the thing that's really holding him back because Ricky used to be such a great putter. And if he can get that putting game going again, I think that's going to be the last kind of trick here. Billy Horschel, as I mentioned, I think he might not be a bad long shot if you want to go Horschel's way. There were a few things I saw that I liked. Again, he won the Zurich Classic. I mentioned that. Another Pete Dye course. I considered a little bit. I don't think he's a bad idea. You know, he's 40-1 in his last 4 appearances, all top 25s, including 7th a couple of years ago. The model gets better. 8 rounds. The last 4 rounds got better, but only 4 rounds. And he's coming off a 5th place finish at the Masters. Okay, so there are some things to like. And I took him a few weeks ago, forget when, what event it was, but it didn't come through for me. It might have been Houston. And it was Houston, but I didn't care because I had Minwoo. And Im has not exactly had a great year so far, a great season, but this event, his history, 5th last week, he's not a bad idea. I was in my thoughts. Jason Day, though, I went with Jason Day again. And why wouldn't I I picked him. I'm going to, unless I see a backwards move, which I remember taking him about a month or 2 ago. He made a backwards move and I stayed away from him for a few weeks, but I took him again. And now he's whenever I take one of these players like this and they play well, I'm going to take him again, especially if they have a history here. And he's been okay here. 5 top 30s out of 7, just 1 top 10, but he's got 2 top 10s in his last 3 on the season. Of course, we saw what he did last week. He was right there at the end. The model, even though it's 59 here, it's half of that over his last 4 rounds. So it looks like maybe he's getting better there. And maybe more importantly, the putter's really working for him in this situation, in this model. So you're getting 35-1. I think it's a fair number. And by the way, he's a major winner, as is Harman and Spieth and a couple others. I'll go over the picks, all the picks in just a sec. Thigala was someone that just missed my cut. And the reason he just missed my cut was it's just one of those things where he's just not playing well. He hasn't been anywhere really at the top of the leaderboard for a while. And I'd just like to see him there even for a couple of days. But he's in all 3 appearances here, he's been better each time, including 5th in 23, runner-up last year. Okay. And if you look at it in 2022, by the way, boy, was he really rolling with the courses. 7th Valspar, 2nd RSM, Pete Dye 2nd at Travelers, And the model is not good here, but it got gradually better. It's been getting gradually better. Almost cut it in half last 8 rounds, and almost cut it in half again last 4 rounds. And he's getting the putter going again. So things are starting to get better for Sahith in this model. Okay, set up for this particular course. The question is, can he just do it like that in a field like this with all these other competitors, considering he really hasn't been down this road for a while? So, but you're getting 75 to 1. And that's the reason why I think he is a very smart play if you want to look for a long shot. And I think that's it. I mean, Max Homa is definitely someone that you, out of all this disappointment, Sam Burns, Cam Young, Homa is the real interesting one because of what he did at Augusta this past week. I mean, where that came from, nobody knows. And I initially said to myself, well, I have to think about him. He's 90 to 1. And how often, he's now 80 to 1. And how often are we going to be in this situation with Max where we're going to be able to get a big number like this? You know, because I already looked at his PGA championship odds. And I can't believe it. And I don't know what they were. They must have, somebody must have put, or a bunch of people must have put a lot of money on Max Homa over a very short period of time leading up into Sunday night, because his odds at the PGA Championship on my sportsbook were 35 to 1. I mean, he's been like 100 to 1 or higher in just about every location, because that's how bad he's played, how poorly he's played. So he goes out at the Masters and plays incredibly well, and he's 35 to 1 over. See, he's really good at Quail Hollow. And that's why he's a smart pick, but not at 35 to 1. Why would I put money on Max Homa at 35 to 1 today when he's 80 to 1 in a signature event? Come on. Now, the difference is, the big difference, besides the field being bigger, is the fact that he doesn't have a good history here. He does have, even though he has a 41st, which is his best, that was 11 under par. So he does have 2 under pars, 1 over par here in three appearances. There's no stats that are going to see any good for Max Homa. But hey, look, he's 80 to 1. I'd rather, even still, with no stats to really, you got 4 rounds, that's it. It's a different course setup. But it's Max Homa. You know that the talent's there, and he's 80 to 1. So I say, why not? You know, you should definitely consider Max Homa as a long shot. All right. Now we're going to wrap up with the picks. I've already given you them, and there they are. And once again, this gives you an opportunity to, freeze this. And just what I told you before, these are some of the key stats to keep an eye on. These are some of the correlated courses I believe you should keep an eye on. Everybody's going to have different stats and different courses. Brady's going to have different stats and different courses. So take it all in. Go out with your best handicappers, whoever you trust. I hope we can keep rolling along, and we're hot right now. Again, 2 out of 3 in golf is very difficult to do, but we still have a long way to go. You know, we started the season in a bad, long drought. I mean, we had a ton of top 5s, runner-ups, close calls. That's golf. But, we still got to keep going. And so until we can get in the plus category, we're in failure mode this season so far as I'm concerned. But we're 2 out of 3. So we'll hope to keep it going, especially now that Brady's not around. And I want to say this too about Brady and the handicappers I've worked with. Anytime you work with these professional handicappers like I have, Mark Lawrence, Jim Feist, everybody, Andy Isco, Tony Mejia, Brady Cannon, all the way down the line to John Hardoon is right there at the top of the list with horse racing. CJ Radoon for my NASCAR. I mean, and he's teaching me now F1. It's all about taking in all of this expert opinion and making your own tools and your own analysis off of the information that you know. It's sort of like I say all the time when I'm talking about football information, and people talk about how they love, say, Pro Football Focus, and because they have all the stats, and I get a kick out of when you hear these analysts on TV even say things like, "Oh, so and so has a so and so grade on Pro Football Focus." I mean, you have to be really seriously. You're getting paid thousands of dollars to be an expert on television, and you're like quoting Pro Football Focus stats like that's supposed to like be the be all end all. I mean, that's just utterly dumb. So in football, Pro Football Focus to me, and what it should be to you, is just a percentage, a tiny percentage of everything else that you put together to use to come up with your own personal formula, say for football. So for me, I take Pro Football Focus. I've got our lads. I've got these handicappers right here at ProLine. I've got Jim Feist that I can talk with every week, and Mark Lawrence, and all the way down the line. Again, Andy Isco had the Eagles, and learning from that. That's the thing. You're not going to be right all the time. So when you're wrong, try to remember when you were wrong. What was it about what you were wrong? That when you're in that position again, can you look back and say to yourself, yeah, I was dumb. I shouldn't have done that. And I haven't really done a lot of that lately because I'm old enough now that when I don't do well and I make bad picks, now I'm not saying I'm 100% in that in the way I've mentioned that. There's still going to be times I'm going to shoot myself in the head for not doing something, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be when I was just getting started. And that's what you have to just keep. And sometimes, you just have to also be, as much as you're hard on yourself, you also have to kind of give yourself a break. But for the most part, my point is when you have all these different things that help you, including, like for me, having Brady to talk to for the first couple of months and get his perspective. And Jared, I was with for 2 years, was telling me about Fantasy National, but I didn't get into it for whatever reason. It just wasn't the time for me. And I use golfstats.com. I think they're very good, but golfstats.com is like a different tool. It's not really for handicapping. It's more informative. And there's a couple other different sites out there I'm not going to go over, but Fantasy National is a lot different. It's sort of like, to me, how I would say I would use the Raggers and Sheets for thoroughbred horse racing. That's what Fantasy National is. That's so good. Now, look, there are other companies out there that do very similar models. They're not like doing anything completely groundbreaking. They're just doing it better, in my mind, than anyone else. See, like the Raggers and Sheets, they are groundbreaking. Okay, but what we're talking golf here, and that's why I hope you just take what I can give to you, what I've learned, say from Brady, but I'm going to continue to learn from people like Brady and even Jared, who will be with me, and Jan Stevenson, of course, and try to put in my own take, and hopefully whatever that is will be successful as we do this, for the most part, flying solo for most of the season. But again, I will not be solo all season. Once again, unless something crazy happens, we are not going to be on the air next week. That's the only week we're going to take off. So don't disappear on me, please. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell once again. That'll let you know, because maybe the next time we're on the air talking golf will be not next Monday, but the Monday after, and it could be for a live broadcast. So if you don't want to miss it live, the opportunity to interact, or just check out the live show. That's the best way to do that. Of course, liking the videos, sharing them, that's all awesome. Really helps us out if you want to support the channel. And, put some comments in there. That's also very important. I really want to build a community where people are talking about golf, and just take a look at the horse racing video. Look at the NASCAR video on the channel. I mean, there's a lot of dialogue going on there. And that's what I want to start doing here for the golf show. And you're the guys that got to get that. You're the guys and girls. You're the ones that have to get it started. And I hope you do. And if you have any questions, I mean, I can't answer them. If I can't, I'll get Brady. You want to ask a question that you even know I can't answer, I'll get Brady. He'll answer it for me, and then Jan will answer it. You got a question for a Hall of Fame golfer? I'll tell Jan I got a question for you. So yeah, let us know what's on your mind. And I hope you come back and check us out. Like I said before, these are not going to be an hour and 25-minute videos. The first one is always going to be the longest whenever you do something solo or in the beginning of the year, because you got to go through the whole rigmarole and set up and promotional this and promotional that. But that's it for the promotional stuff. We're going to get right into it in 2 weeks when we talk about our next event, which is, I don't even know what it is. What is our next event? What is it? We come back and we talk CJ Cup. All right. So the CJ Cup, and of course, don't forget PGA Championship next month. So that'll be big. We'll keep it rolling. We'll keep it real. Thanks a lot for staying with me. I don't know how many of you guys have still stuck with me this far, but really appreciate it. And don't forget, later on this week on the channel, all the handicappers are going to be back tomorrow on Playbook. That's a recording at 1:00 tomorrow. So I don't even know what we're talking about tomorrow, but we got a lot to talk about. There's so many things going on. We're going to have our NHL playoff preview show on Thursday night. We already have our NBA playoff preview on the channel today. We've got our baseball coverage every week. Again, the NHL playoffs, as I mentioned. So Kevin and Jan Levine will get together on that. I'll host that one on Thursday. Horse racing, I've already recorded that. Kentucky Derby in 2 weeks. So that's going to start kicking off. And then we're going to start talking more NFL draft with the NFL draft in a few weeks. So football's not going away either. Jim Feist is putting together some really cool videos, money management. We talked about the live stuff. There's a lot going on here on ProLine TV. And this is only the beginning of everything that we're going to be doing here on the channel. Because trust me, we've got so many different cool things we're talking about that we're eventually going to get to. There's only so many things we can do in a day. So we're getting there. We got, especially the programming is going to be even better and more creative. Trust me, there's going to be more talking as far as just general, what's going on in sports, and let's get to the headlines, and all of that's coming soon. But once again, thanks for tuning in. I basically took care of the additional time today to take care of next week's show as well. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Promise.